everyone. I would like to welcome you to this council meeting of Tuesday, the 13th of March. Well, it actually says the 9th of December in my folder. So, 17th of March. I got the month right. It was in front of me. I should know it off the top of my head anyway. Sorry, at the Euroa Community Conference Centre. Can we just hold that, please, for one moment? Thank you. I'm Councillor Claire Ewart-Kennedy, Deputy Mayor of Strathbogie Shire Council, and I'll be chairing today's meetings. Before we proceed, Councillor Fiona Stevens will reinforce our councillor vision and values. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Our councillor values are respect, integrity, accountability, transparency and responsiveness.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. We acknowledge the traditional traditional custodians of the places we live, work and play. We recognise and respect the enduring relationship they have with their lands and waters, and we pay respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Today we are meeting on the lands of the Tungarung peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation. As per Strathbogie Shire Council rules and regulations, in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, notices relating to privacy, governance principles, voting and meeting procedure are given as read as printed in today's agenda. Are there any apologies of leaves of absence for today's meetings? Mayor Scott Jeffrey is an apology. Councillors, as I take all papers as being read, that being the case, are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest? No. Item 7, we move to confirmation of minutes of decision of the previous meeting, confirmation of minutes decision of the council meeting held on the 17th of February 2026. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor, Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I move that the recommendation on page 6 of our papers be.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fiona Stevens, thank you. Is there any opposition? Mover, would you like to speak to the seconder? Would you like to speak or reserve your right?
No, thank you.
Sorry, I'm a bit out of practice. Sorry, Councillor Stevens, would you like to reserve your right?
No, thank you.
Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? No. On that basis, I will put up with the motion to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried. There being no petitions at item 8, we'll go to the Mayor's report. And although Mayor Jeffrey is an apology for this meeting, he's provided a Mayor report for today's meeting that I will read out on his behalf. It's been a very busy month as our community continues on its recovery journey from the Longwood Berries Lane bushfire. I have had the pleasure of attending a number of recovery events over the last weeks. It's been wonderful to see so many people smiling and enjoying some of these wonderful activities. It's more important than ever that we have opportunities to come together as a community. The Tones and I concert at Longwood over the long weekend was an amazing evening, and I want to congratulate the Longwood Community Centre Organising Committee. It's no small feat to organise a rock concert in a paddock in Longwood for 5,000 people. It's even a bigger accomplishment to do it in a matter of weeks. It was a great event, and I want to thank Tones and I for supporting fire-affected communities. Not only did she give so many people a reason to smile and dance, but proceeds from the concert are going to Strathbogie Disaster Relief Fund, which will directly help impacted communities. It was also my pleasure to MC the 2026 International Women's Day event at Fowles Winery on Friday, March 6. This year's focus was finding strength and resilience during disasters, and it recognised the unique and powerful role women play in leading, supporting and rebuilding during challenging times. The guest speakers, Fiona Norton, the State Manager of the Australian Red Cross, and Michelle Roberts, a Churchill Fellow and co-founder, co-chair of the National Infant and Child Disaster Mental Health Advisory Committee, spoke about leadership, resilience and the important role women play in supporting families, neighbours and entire communities through disaster and recovery. With live music from local performer Gail Mawson and time for conversation over afternoon tea, the event provided a moment for people to reconnect and acknowledge the quiet leadership and care that so many women have shown during the recovery period. The gathering served as a reminder that community recovery is built not only through rebuilding, but through connection, compassion and the strength of people supporting one another. Longwood held its annual For the Love of Ale Festival on the 28th of February. This event really showcased the best our region has to offer, and Council was proud to support this day once again. I also want to acknowledge the Longwood Football and Netball Club for doing such a great job in organising this event. I was also pleased to meet the Rapid Relief team at Ruffy on the 26th of February when they held a Farmers Community Connect breakfast and distributed 1 kilometre of fencing wire to 233 impacted property owners. I want to thank the Ruffy community for hosting this event and the community members who assisted with logistics. The event was all about connection, and for some impacted farmers, it was the first time they'd left their farms since the fire. After the Ruffy event, I headed to Fowles White to meet the Victorian Governor, Her Excellency Professor the Honourable Margaret Gardner AC, and the Emergency Manager Commissioner Tim Wybush, who visited the Shire to learn more about the impact of the bushfires. After lunch, they travelled through impacted areas and met with Blaze Aid volunteers at the Euroa Showgrounds. We thank Her Excellency for her time and interest in the people of Strathbogie. Additionally, along with Councillor Carlson, I had dinner with volunteers at Blaze Aid on Tuesday, 3rd of March. I was very impressed by the professional approach to the work as well as the dedication of the volunteers. Huge thanks to Deborah and Amanda, along with the whole crew, for their commitment to our community in need. I would like to congratulate the Euroa Arboretum, which has been awarded a $900,000 Bush Bank grant to expand its seed bank facilities and native seed orchards over 3 years. This funding will double their processing and storage capacity, support local traditional owners and invest in mechanical harvesting to boost native seed supply for large-scale restoration projects. Tourism Minister Steve Dimiopoulos announced the grant when he visited on the 26th of February to tour the new seed bank site and nursery. To round out the month, on Saturday evening, I also attended the Festival of Small Halls in Avenel. Both Kiana and Irish were amazing performers, and the opening act of locals Penelope and Will showcased some exceptional young talent in our region. Thanks to the Avenel Hall Committee and the other volunteers for facilitating such an amazing night for our community. Councils have been working with the staff this month to progress the 2026-27 municipal budget, and we look forward to sharing that with the residents in the coming months. I look forward to seeing you when I return from leave in 2 weeks. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 9.2, councillor reports. Are there any councillors who would like to report on their activity for the past month? So we'll start with Clark and go around the table. Any councillors?
I'll just... thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. The main report I would like to bring to Council is the fact that over the past fortnight, the main topic of conversation between myself and community members has changed. And the topic is now, far and away, number one, the price and availability of diesel fuel. And I shouldn't even laugh. We've had another rod added to our back. We've come through bushfires. We are still in drought, which I always like to bring up. The price of everything is going up. The price of diesel is going up, which will directly affect the ratepayers of this Shire, particularly the agricultural sector. But the price of diesel is also going to make everything else in the shops go up, because as the truckies like to say, without trucks, Australia stops. So all I want to say is that is a clear stress point that has been added to the stress points that we as council need to consider. The community is concerned about it with just cause. People are... I and others have filled up their diesel tanks when they can because we don't know where this is going. It's a terrible timing for this Shire, but something we have to deal with.
That's all. Thanks. Do you have any
Just briefly, I was at the Valentine Market on the weekend, and I think just the effects of the increase in diesel costs is already being felt in our community, or fuel costs in general, because it's not just diesel, it's also petrol. And it was, whilst, you know, we noticed that there were some storeholders that had chosen not to come, and then also some reports that perhaps visitor numbers were down. And so just acknowledging that, you know, it's going to affect us as an organisation, but it's also going to affect all of our communities as well.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Councillor Carson?
Yeah, it's an ever-present comment. It's the barbecue stop at the moment, absolutely. I should keep a better diary because I can't remember half the things I need to. So, but one, I just paraphrase what Councillor Mayor Jeffrey said. The dinner at Blaze Aid was fascinating. Tremendous people there who just come from literally all over Australia. And some of them are very well educated professional people who have retired and decided that they would go on road trips doing what they do. And it was quite a fascinating evening. The governor was very personable. And not that I know much about what governors actually do, but she handled herself very well. In terms of operational things, I suppose I congratulate the engineering department for putting in the pump at the channel, and it's now rained, so it's not needed anymore. But it is maybe a little bit, but it's one of those things. But it was well done. And of course, the truck wash, which is one of those perennial issues, is slowly but surely coming on stream. But we still have teething problems from time to time, and expect some more for the next couple of months, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Carson. I'd add my support to all those comments about the effect of diesel and fuel prices. It's very worrying out there for everyone, and we're discussing it as a council group moving forward. But as far as reports, my report is I attended the Longwood For the Love of Ale, only to report that in the apple bobbing competition I didn't get one apple. So say no more. I also attended the Tones and I concert. That was a sight to behold in the middle of a dusty paddock with so many people and so many vendors, and just it was fantastic. I also went to the to various communities that have obviously been impacted by bushfire. One in particular stood out that have really, I mean, they all stand out because they're so fantastic. But one particular community, the Gurum community, yes, I just want to make sure I'm saying that right, because I always say it the wrong way. And we went, the CEO and I went to represent the Mayor on a few weeks ago, and it was incredible just to see that they had a vision, they knew what had happened, and they just wanted to get on with it and really execute a plan. And to Ruffy, to Longwood, to Gurum, to all the other communities in our region, I say thank you for what you've done and continue to do, and I look forward to working with you. Councillor Halsall.
Okay, since our last council meeting, I have had some time off to support my husband who had a brain tumour removed 2 days after the February meeting. I hope this provides some context around the emotion I experienced during my council report in that February meeting, while I shared pride in the community in the response to the Longwood fires, which had my husband on a CFA truck for the duration of the fire incident response. This month, I'd like to share some feedback on the Tones and I concert, which I attended with my children, because I figure the opportunity to attend an international event with 5,000 people in Longwood probably wasn't going to come around very often. The event was outstanding, pulled together within a 4-week period. It was outstanding work by the community, which was truly a community-led event. Outstanding work by the council officers involved, and the funding, advocacy and what was achieved to support the event. Outstanding community opportunity to see an international artist with a sellout crowd of 5,000 or 4,999. Longwood community was on show, and again it performed to a very high standard. So thank you.
Councillor Halsall. Councillor Stevens.
Just to reiterate Blaze Aid's contribution to our Shire. I went to the Governor's visit and spoke to many people that were there volunteering to the benefit of our community, and thanked them. So I want to thank them again. And the other one was the International Women's Day. Congratulations to the staff for organising a fantastic day, It was well attended, and I think those that attended walked away feeling very positive about not just the people that attended there that are representative of our community, but also the encouragement of the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Item 10 we go to now, which is public questions. Thanks to all those people who submitted questions for the meeting today, and a reminder that your questions must be lodged 30 hours prior to the meeting, and no person may submit more than 2 questions to any one meeting. We will now proceed with our public questions, which
Through you, Mayor. So we had one question that was submitted. However, the person who submitted the question is not present in the gallery this evening. Given they are not present, the question will not be read out. However, a response will be provided to the person who submitted the question directly.
Thank you, Director Tingo. We'll now move to item 11, officer reports. Councillors, we now move to item 11.1.1, P2025-089, 1554 Merton Strathbogie Road, Strathbogie. The purpose of this report is to bring before a council a recommendation in response to an application for the subdivision of the land into 2 lots, dwelling excision, within the farming zone for a decision. Councillors, is there a motion? And if so, please state your motion. Councillor, I'm going to do this all night. I'm going to try and call you by your first name. Councillor Greg Carlson. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I move that Council resolves to issue a permit P2025-089 under the provisions of the Strathbogie Planning Scheme in respect of the land known as 1554 Merton Strathbogie Road, Strathbogie, Lot 2 PS 416560 in brackets, for the subdivision of the land into 2 lots, dwelling excision, in brackets, subject to the conditions deemed appropriate for the proposal by the responsible officers.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Halsall. Thank you. Councillor Carlson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll get myself organised. Just bear with me for a moment. Thank you. Thank you, Councillors. Look, we all know the restraints we operate under as councillors. There's no end of rules, regulations and laws we have to comply with. Most of these are quite necessary, but many are very annoying. Amongst all this jungle of rules and regulations, it is quite rare or unusual for councillors to have a discretion in the decision making they have to undertake. But on this issue, we do have flexibility. We don't have a great deal, we do have some. To put it into perspective, the speed limit on the Hume Highway is 110 kilometres an hour. If you travel at 140 kilometres an hour, you get the book thrown at you quite correctly. But if you should do 111, 112, 113, you do not. Indeed, your chances of being booked are very slim. If we issue this permit, the roof won't fall in. The officers have performed their duties professionally. They are quite entitled to make the recommendations they have. Our opportunity is that as a council, we can make a different interpretation of this application. Remember, this is an application for a subdivision of 1 block into 2, nothing more. Among the reasons I believe we should do so are the following. 1, planning permit for the subdivision has been previously issued but lapsed for a variety of reasons. Many similar sized blocks in the near vicinity are of similar dimensions. The proposed subdivision is not isolated, but quite close to the Strathbogie township. The community has not expressed any concern, so for the life of me, I question why should we? There has been in the past a proposed zoning of this land to allow such a permit to be issued. Now, this proposed rezoning is listed in the current scheme. However, the amendment was never progressed with and was allowed effectively to lapse. The issues raised by those wishing not to issue a permit are in planning schemes, I believe, in many ways not relevant. A farm plan is not required for a 40 hectare block created, it's in the farming zone. Likewise, whether there is sufficient water supply on the block or is capable of supporting agricultural activities is not relevant. There are numerous areas of the land in the rural zone that have very poor characteristics. If this land was proposed to be developed, to be developed further, whatever the development was proposed would have to satisfy all the necessary conditions required by that development. This would be a completely different process to what we are considering today. We have before us a resident and a ratepayer who is trying to achieve a modest goal, and I believe it is the right thing to do to allow them to proceed.
Thank you, Councillor Carson. Councillor Hussle, would you like to speak or reserve your right? Yes, okay. Would we like any other councillors to speak? Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'm speaking against this motion. In terms of Councillor Carlson's point, he is correct that a farm plan is not required for a 40 hectare block. However, an integrated land management plan is required to address and bring about remediations or any degradation to agricultural use that this subdivision would engender. Subdividing off 13.7 hectares with far and away the better water supply may, and indeed I believe would, prejudice the remaining 40 hectare block, which is also a much rockier, lower elevated portion of the existing 53.7 hectare block. We're operating under Clause 14.0.1.1s, protection of agricultural land under the planning policy framework. The question is not whether this 13.7 hectare block alone protects agricultural land. The question is whether the subdivision allows for the protection of agricultural land. In short, does excising the 13.7 hectares with far and away the better water supply protect what was a 53.7 hectare block total? I believe it does not. In communication with the applicant, it becomes clear that the application is being lodged by the landowner. The business of which the plan is a separate entity. The landowner has stated that they may decide to remediate the water on the 40 hectare block by means of a bore. Well, they may decide, and the bore may or may not be a good bore, we don't know. In the absence of that surety, this 40 hectare block 2 to remain is most likely to leave productive agricultural use and go to some sort of rural residential use. So overall, this does not serve to protect that 53.7 hectares of land. In addition, Councillor Carlson said that we have a resident and ratepayer trying to achieve a modest goal. But this is the landowner that put in this application, not the business operator. So how is this furthering the goal of the operator, which is a separate entity? I can't see how it is. So this excision doesn't appear to have any reason that furthers the operation of the horse stud on the 13.7 hectare proposed excision. I actually cannot see a compelling reason for this excision at all, given that it possibly will degrade the existing block's agricultural carrying capacity in total.
Thank you, Councillor Galloway. Do we have any other councillors who would like to speak in support of the motion? No? Do we have any other councillors who would like to speak against? Councillor Stevens?
Yep. Thank you. Just a couple of things. Firstly, planning is a very challenging environment. In this particular case, there are aged documents that are used as reference documents, and there are documents that could possibly be interpreted incorrectly quite easily, which is not unique to a planning environment. But we have to work with what we've got. As for Councillor Colson's example of flexibility, interpretation of legislation has always been an area that the legal profession constantly argue upon with different interpretations of that legislation, but it doesn't change the legislation. And we're dealing with an application within a legislated environment. So we can't just change the rules by selective interpretation. We did hear from the applicant, and we have read the documents before us, and I'm not convinced that a subdivision is required for these businesses to continue to operate effectively. Refusing this subdivision is not detrimentally going to affect the operations of the two businesses that utilise this land. One is an equine business, one is a farming business with cattle and sheep. The owner of the land who runs the cattle and sheep on site has said that she can still monitor her business residing across the road. So by subdividing the land does not bring any benefit to the businesses, and it does not provide any detriment to the ongoing operation of the businesses. So what we're focusing on is simply an application for subdivision. The onus is on the applicant to demonstrate the need for this subdivision and to demonstrate the benefits that this subdivision would bring. That has not been spoken to in the documents anywhere. In relation to the legislative documents versus information documents that are referenced within our planning scheme, they are only for information and reference only. They do not carry any legislative weight whatsoever, and the onus again is on the applicant to become familiar with those documents and address them accordingly within their application. There is one document that has caused a bit of confusion, and this is what I started to say at the start of my presentation about the planning environment. It's not always black and white, and it is open to interpretation. But once again, the onus is on the applicant to familiarise themselves with those documents. And the document that is referred to is a document from 2008. So the relevance of that document, apart from being the thinking at the time as to how planning may develop within this particular area, carries no more weight than that. It is currently under review in that the rural land use strategy and the urban growth strategy, which effectively will replace this document, are currently under review, and there are opportunities for input into those documents. But we have to work with what we've got at the moment, and that is a very outdated information document only. I think we have to be mindful that just because you put an application in doesn't mean you get it. It's not open slather. You have to meet the needs of that application and demonstrate to the council why we would go against our current status quo for this particular farming zone in this particular area. And I don't believe that those arguments have been strongly put forward. And my final statement once again is that the applicant has not provided evidence that says that this subdivision is crucial or beneficial to the ongoing successful operation of their businesses that operate this land. Conversely, there is no detriment if this subdivision does not go ahead. Thank you.
Councillor Stevens. Okay, councillors to speak in support of the motion.
I still have a right of
You still have a right. Any other councillors to speak? Councillor Binks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kennedy. I just wanted to foreshadow that should this motion fail, I would look to move a motion as is printed in the recommendation of the papers this evening, so I just wanted to foreshadow that. And just to, I guess, continue on what has been spoken to by Councillor Holloway and Councillor Stevens, I think it's fairly clear from the officer's report that the fragmentation of this farming land and the lack of justification for the creation of this two-lot subdivision has not been found to justify a granting of the permit, and that's why I do not support the motion this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. I'm going to speak in support of the motion. I think Councillor Carlson, I think, provided a very good coverage of the issue, and I acknowledge what Councillor Holloway and Stevens and Binks have said, and it's not an easy one to state why I support it, but the fundamental issue, and it comes down to this: we live in the best shire in Australia. We all know that. Why wouldn't people want to come and live and operate their businesses? When I decided to run for council, it was because we wanted to facilitate opportunities for people who wish to make their life here and are able to do so to contribute to our community. I'm not going to back away from that. So we want and we need economic activity for our community to flourish. The rural residential zone and protecting agricultural land is always going to be an issue in our particular shire, and it's one that we all take very seriously, whether we own farms or not. It is a future quandary, but it's one we can't ignore, and on this basis, I'm going to say I would support the motion. Any other councillors would like to speak for the motion? And before council does, no, sorry, you were going to speak, yeah, sorry, Biggie.
Okay, so I called this application in for further scrutiny by councillors with the intent of opening up a discussion about subdivision, about the use of properties, about equine businesses and the need for smaller land parcels, about the higher infrastructure costs associated with equine businesses, and also because I stood for transparency when I came into council, and at the moment our planning scheme is publicised, it is available for public, and we specifically reference 2 documents in support or to supplement what is being read. Those 2 reports indicate that at the time, the strategic intent of the area, so these blue circles indicate where smaller subdivisions or rural residential living would be consolidated or considered. Over the last 22 years, this strategy or proposed strategy has actually been in our decision-making framework. We refer to them colloquially as being the pink maps. In Strathbogie, it's blue circles. So this has actually been used in our decision-making in the planning department, in my mind, for 22 years. What we haven't done is been transparent. We haven't changed this publicly. We haven't shifted the community expectation. We have just said we're not going to use it anymore, but we haven't taken the reference out of our public documents. So for me, in terms of transparency, we create this expectation that you can have a smaller lot, and then we put in that a community member puts in a planning permit, which is then rejected, and they don't understand why when they're complying to our own public documents. So in my mind, we can't say no until we update what information we put out there publicly. What I would also like to say is the purpose of the farming zone, and I may be a moment.
So, I'm sorry, I was letting it go. I didn't want to interrupt your flow, but just a point of order and point of clarification. Councillor Helsel did say that the document you're referring to with the pink maps was a strategy document.
It is a strategy. It says rural residential strategy.
It's not a policy document. It's a proposed document.
It says Strathbogie Shire Rural Residential Strategy. I am just straight out reading the title of the document.
Maybe to assist. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your flow. I did hesitate, but excuse me, and
Are
I'll
you
find
sure it did interrupt?
Maybe the staff. Maybe if I could direct the question through the staff, please, for clarification. Yeah. You'd have it noted, but Ms. Sticky's come off.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor, to redirect to Councillor Director Frampton to answer that question.
So thank you, and through you, Chair. The 2004 Rural Land Use Strategy is a reference document within the planning scheme, but however, it is not an incorporated document into the planning scheme. So officers are to consider as relevant, however, it's not binding to decisions.
Under that, I don't think that's a point of order that I can hold, because I think that's how Councillor Hassel.
My question was clarification because Councillor
I don't
Hassel,
understand why she can't. A point of clarification in the middle of my.
because it's under a point of order. Your first statement was it was a strategy document, and then you corrected yourself and you said it's a proposed.
It's a strategy document. I read the title.
It's not accepted as.
Well, it's called a strategy and it's a reference document. So I think we're...
Through you, Mayor, I think that point of clarity is confirmed from Director Frampton, that it's not an endorsed document, it's a reference document to the strategy.
Okay, so it's a reference document to the strategy. Okay, thank you. Thank you, and I apologise for interrupting your flow.
Okay. Councillor Hassel.
I'm going to need an extra minute.
Don't worry, you've got an extra minute.
It'll be at least one. All right, so referring to and reading our current farm zone policy on the planning scheme, the purpose, and I've picked out two, to encourage retention of employment and population to support communities, and the second one, to provide for the use and development of land for the specific purposes identified in the farm zone use schedule. One of the roles of planning is managing land use. It is a control put in place to reduce potential conflict by managing what land can be used for. The farm zone isn't just about agriculture, and not every use needs 40 hectares to be sustainable, profitable, contribute to community, contribute to the income of council by way of rates, and therefore should not be automatically tainted with lifestyle, rural residential use, or proliferation of dwellings within the farm zone. Strathbogie community specifically asked for in their strategic planning consultation. They said, don't condemn us with no growth. We need growth to survive. Communities need young active members to take over volunteer community support roles that are crucial in rural communities. Strathbogie Shire needs increased revenue to be sustainable. A horse property is in exactly that. Young active people, well, even 50 is young in my book, that can contribute to the community. Here are some permitted uses in the farm zone without a planning permit from Strathbogie Council. So you can, in the farm zone, have a bed and breakfast up to 10 persons, have a cattle feedlot, have a dwelling on a lot greater than 40 hectares, a home business, a poultry farm, primary produce sales, racing dog husbandry, rural industry, rural store, rural worker accommodation and timber production. None of those things require 40 hectares besides the right of a dwelling or a lot. Additional uses with a permit: a broiler farm, camping or caravan park, car park, cemetery, dwelling, landscape garden supplies. I hope that I'm starting to sell you the story that the farm zone isn't just about farming. Worker accommodation is significant in our shire. Equine businesses are significant employers. Where do they house their staff? In the future, this smaller block might be appropriate for worker accommodation. Subdivision in our planning scheme, right of a dwelling greater than 40 hectares. So it's this fact and my understanding, that is actually holding up and why people are opposing this subdivision, because it creates a lot with the right of a dwelling. A permit may be granted to create smaller lots if any of the following apply. Subdivision creates a lot for an existing dwelling. Tick. This subdivision creates a lot for an existing dwelling. There is nowhere in the planning scheme that says a permit may not be granted if it creates a lot of 40 hectares. This is the purest view that is based on the farming zone is for farming, but the farm zone has many permitted uses. Dwelling in the farm zone should be avoided. Why? In areas of prime farmland, yes, prioritise farming. In areas of granite rock, close to a township, a community that has openly expressed their desire to grow, located on a sealed road, a primary road, existing infrastructure, and lo and behold, on our garbage collection route. I absolutely support the subdivision.
Thank you, Councillor Halsall. Councillor Carlson.
Conclude the debate, and I didn't know what I'd started here tonight. It's been look, just a few points to conclude the debate. People are talking about conditions or the status of the land. The reality is that in terms of this issue, what conditions are required is just simply not relevant. If someone wishes to develop 40 hectare land, they will have to comply with whatever conditions are deemed necessary. And there could be maybe too expensive, actually. We don't know because it has not been investigated. That's a work in the future if it is to proceed. For those who are concerned about fragmentation of farmland, one of the conditions, if this permit is granted, will be a necessity for the applicant to sign a 173 agreement, ensuring that no further subdivisions will be granted. That's one guardrail. We are not trying to change the law. We are trying to work within it. But we have to acknowledge that the planning scheme as it is today, which is what we're working with, is a work in progress. And it's going to need the commitment of considerable resources, human and financial, to be progressed. It's no cheap option to work through planning amendments and redefining planning schemes. It's a very lengthy and expensive process, and that has to be taken into consideration in terms of when and where we'll address it. But that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Now that everyone's had their opportunity to speak, I'll put the motion to the vote. Those in favour, raise your hand. Those against?
You're not said.
On that basis, we have a... So on the basis that we have 3-3, I will use the casting vote to support the amendment. Proceed. Thank you. Right, we're now moving to item 11.2.1, animal registration fees. The purpose of this report is to seek council approval to waive a 2026 animal registration renewal fee due 9th of April 2026 for owners of registered domestic animals within the defined fire-affected area in recognition of the hardship resulting from recent bushfires. Councillors, do we have a motion? And please state your motion. Councillor Halsall.
I wish for recommendation on page 53 to become a motion.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Holloway, thank you. Councillor Halsall, would you like to speak to this?
I would. In the aftermath of the fires, Council has done a review of services to investigate where we can provide support and alleviate the pressures created by the disaster. There are many areas that have been identified, this being one of them, and I wholeheartedly support the officer's recommendation, and it was brought up by an officer, to support waiving fees for fire affected.
Thank you, Councillor Halsall. Councillor Holloway, would you like to speak or reserve your right?
Yeah, I'll speak now, and very, very briefly. It's modelled that this motion will result in council foregoing revenue of $5,403, which is a very small price to pay, both to provide a small level of relief to fire-affected residents, hopefully not the hopefully not the last relief, but also as a signal to our community that we are exploring every option that we can to provide levels of relief. So as Councillor also said, I also wholeheartedly support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No? On that basis, I will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. We move to item 11.2.2, variations and grants approved under CEO delegation February 2026. The purpose of this report is to inform Council on the community grants of variations approved under delegation by the Chief Executive Officer or relevant director as per Council's community funding model for the period of the 1st to the 28th, 2026. Councillors, is there a motion? And please state your motion. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I move that the recommendation on page 56, points 1 and 2, become the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Housel, thank you. Councillor Carlson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Not really. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's quite easily explained there in the It's basically it's just housekeeping for us to deal with.
Thank you. Councillor Housel, would you like to speak to the motion or reserve your right?
Sure, I will speak now. This motion is to put on the public record grant amounts that have been awarded under delegation during the last period. Euroa Football Club, Junior Football Club $1,000, Longwood Land Care nearly $1,000. Pickleball, I'd like to have a go at pickleball at $992. Nagambie RSL $473 and Longwood Football Netball Club in support of the Longwood for the Love of Ale event $4,754. I think it's useful to keep in mind that council continues to support the community beyond the bushfire affected communities, but business as usual is still taking place. And I encourage other community groups that are in need of funding and note that following this award of the event grant, the remaining funds in the event grant budget is $11,200. That brings us up to March 16, so there's still April, May and June before the end of the financial year. So if you need money for an event, get in quick. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Housel. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No? Okay, on that basis, we'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. We now move to item 11.4.1, Municipal Association of Victoria State Council motions. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's endorsement for the submission of 5 motions to the Municipal Association of Victoria, known as MAV. State Council meeting scheduled for Friday, 29th May 2026. Councillors, do we have a motion and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Carlson, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I move that the council accept the resolution on page 61, points 1, 2, 3 and 4.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson.
Do you need a recommendation?
Recommendations.
Councillor, do I have a seconder? Councillor. I'm not done very well tonight, I'm sorry. Councillor Laura Biggs. So you both put your hand up exactly the same time, but you couldn't see each other. Councillor Laura Biggs. Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, Madam Deputy Mayor, I mean, clearly these resolutions have been driven by the recent disaster with the community suffered here, and they are, I'm sure, going to be supported by a number of councils in the conference. And they're directly related and will be supportive to us in our efforts to work through what is a 1,000-day event and bring to the authorities' attention in any way we can the issues which we will be consistently putting before them, and these are 5 of them are very, very relevant. we work through this challenge. I don't wish to go into any great detail. I'm sure there'll be some pretty significant debates in the MAB this year, because there's a number of issues now that are really starting to.
Thanks, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to it or reserve your right?
Just briefly, I'll speak to it now. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kennedy, Ewart Kennedy. I think I'm mumbling up too. Yeah. Except, yeah, back to front. Just to say that, following on from Councillor Carlson's motions at previous state forum last month at the February meeting, we had motions relating to the national forum for councils, and I think there is obviously that crossover, obviously around the natural disaster recovery and coordination of physical donations during a disaster. I mean, that's something that it's not unique to Strathbogie. It's certainly not going to be the last time that happens, but we usually have some new ways of managing natural disasters, and I think it's really important that we advocate and work with MAV to ensure that we get better results for communities across Victoria into the future.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Is there any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
I would just like to briefly say that officers worked very hard on developing these motions in consultation with councillors, and I would just like to say thank you to the officers for their work in presenting these recommendations for Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Anyone else like to speak? No? On that basis, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. We go to item 11.4.2, Parliamentary Inquiry into 2026 Summer Fires across Victoria. The purpose of this report is to endorse Council's submission. Sorry, Amanda's coming. Sorry, yes. To endorse the Council's submission to the Parliamentary Inquiry into 2026 Victorian bushfires. This submission is due on the 19th of April 2026. Councillors, do we have a motion, and if so, please state your motion. Thank you, Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I would like the motion to be the recommendation as listed on page 67 of our papers.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Stevens, thank you. Councillor Holloway, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would, yes. I'd first of all like to commend council officers for putting together what I feel is a comprehensive, very meaty, fact-based letter for essentially advocacy. And I think it is an absolute fantastic output. So well done to that. I think the letter speaks for itself. There's nothing I really need to add or do to speak to it. However, I would like to note that in terms of our infrastructure vulnerabilities, these are not just with respect to the fire. Our infrastructure vulnerabilities have been there for years. The fire brought to a head those vulnerabilities. I'm so pleased that the wire rope barriers made it in there as a risk to us. Vic Roads may have fully analyzed the risk to their passenger cars, but they have in this past fire presented a risk to us. The other item I'd like to highlight is the recommendation to advocate to the Australian Energy Regulator and to ensure emergency power supplies at telecommunications towers. These also are long-standing issues that the fire has revealed. They really need to happen. The telecommunications, especially on the Strathbogie tableland, is woeful. We need improvements wherever we can get them. So if the fires bring that as a result, that's one good result from fires. Results. So, great letter. Thank you very much. And
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Councillor Stevens, would you like to speak or reserve your right?
No, it's fine, thanks. I'd just like to say thank you to the staff. This is not an easy ask to put a submission in. There's a lot of information you want to try and impart, but the challenge is impart it in a way that people are going to read it and not just put it aside. And there was a bit of back and forward with the councillors trying to cull this a bit. But I think the end document is a great document. It gives narrative to set the scene. It is very informative without being over so, and it also clearly outlines a recommendation. So we're trying to come up with solutions or suggestions as to how we can do better. So I just want to say the document's a great document. Thank you for the work that's been done, and hopefully they'll read it. Hopefully, the Mayor should get an invitation to speak to this document at some stage, and that will be an opportunity to extrapolate the commentary in it as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Would any other councillor like to speak to you?
Yeah. This submission represents the real life working of council and the organisation together to come up with a submission that reflects the views of the officers as well as the council as a whole. And this process is an example of great cooperation, collaboration and positive synergy between the organisation and council. And the difference between the first draft and this final draft really is, significant. It really does have lots of feedback involved and incorporated from across the whole team. And actually, it's probably a great example of the team being the officers as well as council and the output that it creates. So I think it's commendable as an entire team.
Thank you very much, Councillor Halson. Would any other councillor like to speak to that?
Yes, just thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Just briefly, it's a very wordy document, but every word's relevant. It's very precise. The information of the reference points and the recommendations are good. They're not outrageous. They're professional, transparent, objective. And I think Scott will have, I suppose not having a good time is not the right word, but I think he'll be very comfortable presenting this to the higher-ups because I think it's got a lot of weight in it. Just the one area, there's 11 different headings, but the one area that stands out to me is the fuel load issue and the traffic control, traffic infrastructure on an freeway. Really, as an issue for this community is just simply not sustainable. How that will be addressed, we don't know, but we know what the problem is. We've articulated very, very clearly here without being alarmist, and it's an issue that's not going to go away. So it's a very, very good start.
Thank you very much, Councillor Castle. Would any other councillor like to speak to them? No, I just wanted to say that silver linings, I think, is where we put this. The bushfires are shocking and will continue to affect our community for a very long time. But this is absolutely, as all of the other councillors that spoke, a result of everyone driving together in the same direction for the one commonality, and that is the betterment of our community and the recovery of our community. So my hat's off to the executive team and the work they've done on this, because I know it's not easy, and we all should be proud to put our our support behind our Mayor to that letter. So let's hope we do get a silver lining. We deserve it. Well done. Anyone else like to speak? No? On that basis, I'm going to put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. And we're now moving to item 11.4.3, Quarter 2 Finance Report and Mid-Year Budget Review 2025-26. The purpose of this report is to note the Quarter 2 Financial Report and Mid-Year Review of the financial statements for the period ending 30th of June 2026. Councillors, is there a motion, and please state your motion. Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I move that the recommendation on page 83 of the papers become a motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Holloway, can I have a seconder, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Holloway, would you like to speak to the motion?
You know I would. It's about budgets.
I nearly said it tongue in cheek, but I thought I'd be smart.
So I will be brief. I don't get too wrapped around the axle around quarterly reports because in local government, at least, they tend to be very bouncy based on cash basis receipts of grants and whatnot reports. However, and I was pleased to see that the capital budget is under budget. What I would like to speak on is the actual and forecast comprehensive income statement, which is on page 89 of our papers. Briefly, we have managed to salvage a surplus for the 2025-2026 financial year as of now at 1.257 million. However, the budgeted surplus was 5.2 million, leading to a negative variance of $3.944 million. So the only comment I would make was I'm very thankful that we put in the work last budget cycle to get that very high surplus, because we almost blew through it. So that is a cautionary tale as we enter the next budget cycle.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hoy. Councillor Carlson, would you like to speak to it or reserve your right?
Just briefly, Madam Deputy Chair. Look, yeah, I support entirely Councillor Holloway's comments that maybe we dodged the bullet in a way because of the work we did last year. But given the situation we find ourselves in now, we have to acknowledge that the real work's just beginning here. The challenging times are going to be the next 3 to 4 months as we try and grapple with being in a position where we never expected to be. And so that's going to be quite a challenge for both the council chamber and the staff. But performance so far in the finance department has been exemplary. They're progressing well, and but there's so much work to do. So it's going to take a fair bit of consideration over the next 2 to 3 months to get to the point where we want to get to and maintain our trajectory.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No. On that basis, I will put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. We now move to item 11.4.4, record of informal meeting of councillors February 2026. The purpose of this report is that council note the record of informal meetings of councillors from 1st of February 2026 to 28th of February 2026. Councillors, is there a motion? And please state your motion. Councillor Stevens, thank you.
My motion is as per the recommendation on page 95. The council notes the record of informal meetings of councillors from the 1st of February 26 to the 28th of February 2026. Thank you.
Stevens, do I have a second, please? Councillor Carlson, thank you. Councillor Stevens, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Chair. I think it's self-explanatory. If people want to know what the council are working on, they can have a look at this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor?
No comment.
Reserve your right. Okay. Anyone else like to speak to the motion? No. Now for that motion will vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Councillors, we now move to item 11.5.1, Customer Service Charter. The purpose of this report is to adopt the Customer Service Charter. Councillors, can you please, is there a motion? Can you please state what your motion is? Councillor Holloway, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Yes. I would like the recommendation on page 100 of our papers to become the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Do I have a second, please? Councillor Councillor. No, I want to say Councillor Vicky. Sorry, I've got to stop doing that. Thank you very much, Councillor Halsell. Councillor Hollow, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would, yeah. This is near and dear to my heart. So this is putting the final icing on the cake of a very realistic and customer-focused customer service charter, which, I mean, I'm thrilled that it's a 2-page document, very simple, very accessible, showing our quantitative service levels that we strive to achieve. So maximum time to acknowledge is 3 working days. Maximum time to acknowledge complaint, which is a separate issue, is 2 working days. And maximum time to reply to an escalated complaint is 10 working days. Now, we're not always going to hit these service level targets. I understand, particularly with the trials and tribulation that this Shire has suffered over the past 2-3 months. But I'm glad to see that we have a document that customers can refer to and have a sense of confidence that, yes, we are honestly trying to achieve it. And furthermore, not said in the charter itself, but the back end of us tracking where we hit it, where we make it, where we need to improve somewhat. So absolutely thrilled that this document's come out, absolutely thrilled that it is clean, simple, very accessible. It's a very, very...
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Councillor Halson, would you like to speak or to reserve your right? Okay, yep.
I just had a few comments to make about the customer service charter, in that this has been really important to council in line with our values of accountability and responsiveness. What has been really heartening is that the customer service leadership, which sits with Sharon, Director Rainsbury, yes, is actually been driving this along, and it is going, I believe, and I think Clark also would support me in this, in definitely the right direction, to deliver consistency, irrespective of how you contact council. It's also delivering on our to improve service levels and responsiveness, and it should give our community the confidence to know that we are actually tracking it, so that we have a continuous feedback loop to then drive continuous improvement and value the service that we're providing to community. So thank you for the work of Sharon and her team.
Thank you, Councillor Halsell. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No. On that basis, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Can we please move to item Advocacy Update 11.5.2. The purpose of this report is to adopt the Disaster Advocacy Strategy 2026. Councillors, do we have a motion, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Stevens. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My motion is as per the recommendation on page 108. There's 3 points to it. That Council adopt the Disaster Advocacy Strategy 2026. Secondly, authorise officers to make updates to the advocacy priority items to ensure they stay current. And number 3, note that the Disaster Advocacy Strategy 2026 will guide Council's advocacy efforts from March 2026 forward.
Councillor Stevens, please.
Onward, actually. Onward, not forward.
Can I have a second, please? Councillor Carlson, thank you. Councillor Stevens, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would, thank you. From the time this council has come into play, there has been a lot of discussion and emphasis put on advocacy, because we need to be the voice of the organisation and the community. And we need to get into the ears and eyes of every person we possibly can. But to do that, we have to be organised so that we don't just become white noise. And we have to have a sense of direction, and we have to have priorities. We can't ask for everything as much as we would like to. We have to prioritise what our asks are. In saying that, even though this document has a number of priorities, just because it's not in the document doesn't mean it's not a conversation that we can still have and continue to advocate for. But these are the highest ones. What we've identified for this particular document is connecting communities with the Bridges and Drainage Infrastructure Renewal Program, the Equitable Digital and Telecommunications Infrastructure, Euroa Precinct Master Plan, Greening Euroa, Recycling Water Revitalisation of Community Spaces, the Nagambie Freight and Industry Connector, Reliable Power Supply Infrastructure, Kerwins Bridge Restoration and Avenel Pedestrian Railway Crossing. all items that are extremely important for our community and for this organisation. I'd just like to thank the staff. I think the document is great. Once again, as per the previous document, it has to be informative, but it has to be short and sweet and direct. And the way this has been put together, identifying the problem, then putting forward solutions and an ask, it's very well laid out. So thank you and congratulations. And let's make it available to every possible person we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Carlson, would you like to speak? Or
Just a few brief comments, Madam Deputy Mayor. I think it was Neville Rand said you have to keep on saying something for 12 months before anyone begins to listen. Now, I don't think current politicians are quite like that, but nevertheless, consistency is the critical thing. Absolutely. We can't have two versions of anything. So this document will be spread far and wide, as it should be, from the lowest to the highest, and the message must always be the same. And I congratulate the staff for putting together such a readable presentation. That's really what politicians and people in authority who have got charge of budget read a lot of stuff, too much stuff. And I was famously told by a politician, a deputy premier, he looked at me and said, well, why should I help you? It's a bloody good question, because I didn't have the answer. Not 30 seconds. And while this is not 30 seconds, nevertheless, it's straight to the point, it's clear, it's unambiguous, and we must work with it consistently.
Thank you.
Keep pushing the wheelbarrow, we'll eventually get there.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor like to speak in the motion?
As a first-term councillor, understanding the importance of advocacy was something I had to learn. Being part of the advocacy strategy development and then see it come to fruition in a printed quality book, I didn't really appreciate why the investment in the presentation until we had a disaster. And then seeing this be delivered to every single minister and their staff that came through really showed me how being proactive and getting on the front foot with advocacy in a presentation like this is actually paramount. And to be honest, I think we owe our gratitude to Rochelle and her leadership in driving this advocacy strategy, which then follows on for this advocacy update based on disaster. And I just wish to say thank you for putting us in the driver's seat. And we're actually leading the advocacy now because people are looking at what Strathbogie's doing and using us as their benchmark.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? All I'd like to say is advocacy is my baby. I love it. And this is an example of, again, the council, without sounding like we're navel-gazing, but it's the councillors working with the executive team to in one direction for the betterment of our community, and that's why we're all here around the table. It's a quality document. I know it's not at its finished point yet, and it sits and aligns with our other advocacy strategies that we worked very hard on last year. So I think absolutely hats off to everyone around the table, including particularly the executive team and Rochelle. So on that basis, if no one else has...
Excuse me, Mayor, if I may, a point of clarification. I made a mistake in that I didn't conclusively speak to this document as a supplementary document to the others that we already have. So I do apologise for that.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. On that basis, if no one else would like to speak to the motion, I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we move to notice of motion. There are none. Notices of rescission. There are none. Confidential business, there is none. Urgent business, there is none. The next meeting of the Strathbogie Shire Council will be on the 21st of April, where we will welcome back Mayor Scott Jeffrey. That being no further business, the meeting closed at 5:15 p.m. 5:13 actually. Thank you. And you can